Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Raptors Report podcast. I am Julian, and my co-host, as always, Steve. We're here on the broadcast. We're here to talk about the Toronto Raptors. And, I just got back from vacation, and that's why there's been a bit of a gap in terms of, we were doing every Monday for the past few weeks prior to 3 weeks ago, and there was a bit of a break. But we are back. And we're ready to talk Raptors about 1 month before the season starts, or at least the preseason. So how are you doing, Steve?
I'm good. Welcome back. Hopefully your vacation was restful.
It was. I got some time with the family. My mom's out west, and we got to visit her. Everything was really chill, really relaxed. We started up some TikToks, and oh God, I sound like an old man. Some TikToks. We did some TikToks. We started up the Instagram. We did some posts on there. Please follow us if you can at Raps underscore, or what is it? At Raptors underscore report, I believe.
I think it's at Raptors underscore report on Instagram and TikTok, I think.
That's
Yeah.
right. And we are going to be doing that throughout the season. We were doing it every day. There was a bit of a break, but then we were doing it pretty much every day. We're not going to be doing it every day, but we are going to be consistently publishing content there, just short stuff. And if you like the other content that we do, please check that out. We have also started up a Patreon. That's right. You can support the show if you like, and all the proceeds will be going to myself and Steve. And we will throw a link in the description once that is all sorted out. Once maybe we'll put it in in the description of the video, and you can contribute there if you'd like. So, anyway, we are going to be talking about a couple of things today. We have some pertinent business, so we are going to be talking about Sandro Mamukelashvili and his pretty impressive performance at FIBA Eurobasket. Is it FIBA Eurobasket, FIBA World Cup?
I think it's Eurobasket.
Yeah, FIBA Eurobasket.
Yeah.
He's representing Georgia, of course. And he's played pretty well, so we'll be digging into that. But the main thing that we're going to be looking at today is the Toronto Raptors starting lineup. We're going to be doing best case and worst case scenarios for all of the starters. And that should be pretty interesting. I think that the starters are really going to be determining how well the team does this season. Steve?
Yeah.
I am excited. And I always, before the season starts, I'm always very high. And I have to take a step back. I have to calm myself down. I have to say, listen, things aren't always as rosy. Like you build these things in your mind, you create this sort of best case scenario for all of the players on the team. Like Scottie Barnes, he's going to be an all-star again this year. He's going to maybe make the all-NBA team. Brandon Ingram, he's going to be healthy for the whole season. He's going to average like 25 points per game. Quickley's going to shoot the ball really well. RJ's going to be a force going to the basket. Jakob Poeltl's going to be the man in the middle who's locking everything down. And then the bench is going to, finally, the Raptors finally have a bench. Everybody's going to step up and really push the team over the hump and get into the playoffs. And of course, that could happen. I mean, anything is possible. However, once the season starts, that's when the rosy colored glasses start to change and become, just regular spectacles. You start seeing things the way that they are rather than the way that you hope they were. And a lot of players really disappoint. That's just the fact of the matter, is that when you get into the heart of the season, you really start to see the weaknesses of the team that you're rooting for. There's always like a guy who is just a complete donkey and you rip your hair out every time they step onto the floor.
It's usually the guy that I am rooting for the most. That'll be my my Castletons, my Wanchos, my all these guys that I'm like, no, this guy, he's gonna actually pop. Because you see other teams where like their random role players just pop, and you're like, why not us? Why not here? So I'm right with you on that. Coming into the season very high. One thing you said resonated the most, which was the we'll finally have a bench. I think I've been saying that for 3, 4 years of, hey, we finally have a good bench. I mean, at least now it's finally a young bench with some potential, so that should be exciting. But yeah, I'm right there with you, and yeah, I mean, let's get into what our best and worst case scenarios are for them.
Okay, all right, absolutely. The first player that we're going to be looking at, I think it's pretty obvious who I'm going to pick here, but Scottie Barnes is the guy that we are going to be looking at first. And I don't think that that's any surprise to anybody. And so we're just going to throw it up on the screen here. His stats from last season. And then Basketball Reference does a pretty nifty thing. And they have the predicted stats. And it's really simple. They don't use advanced stats. They just kind of assume that a player, if they're under the age of 28, they're receiving consistent minutes, they're just going to be like slightly better than they were or over the course of the season, the past couple of seasons. So what they have for him is he's going to be playing, or sorry, excuse me, he's going to be scoring 20 points per game, have 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 1.4 steals, 1.2 blocks on 46% field goal percentage, 30% from 3, and 77% free throw percentage. And, I don't think that that's like a horrible guess, although I would hope that there are certain things that are better there, especially from the efficiency standpoint. What do you
Yeah.
think about their,
Honest, yeah, that sounds like the bare minimum. I feel like that those are the numbers that he can kind of get to in his sleep at this point, although he somehow always drops right off of the 20 point per game right at the end of the season. But I feel like that's kind of his baseline. So personally, I'd be disappointed if that's what he was, especially with the 30% from three. That means that there was not really any progress in that area, which you'd want to see at this point. I know he's not going to have a complete overhaul from last season, but the biggest thing with last season was just him experimenting and just kind of chucking it up. He had multiple games where he was over 10, over 11. If they're trying to compete, he's not going to take that many shots. So I would hope that his is just by that virtue of taking less, that his efficiency there would tick up more than just to the baseline of 30.
Yeah, maybe more catch and shoot. Obviously, taking the easier
Definitely.
3 point shots that would definitely be my preferred Scottie Barnes.
Yeah.
So let me throw out my best case scenario. I'm thinking, okay, this is pie in the sky, rosy colored glasses within the realm. Like I could say, like 50 points per game and blah 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 blah. But here's what I'm thinking is like a realistic best case scenario: 22 points per game. Now, and this is all per 36. So just
Okay.
22 points per game, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 1.5 steals, 1.5 blocks on 50% from the field, 35% from three, 80% from the line. And in terms of like the hardware that he could get, all-star, all NBA, maybe third team, all defense second team, and a playoff berth. I think that in this scenario, he would, have growth as a spot up shooter and with develop maybe a pull up 3 point shot that maybe not isn't incredible, but is respectable. I think that in this best case scenario, his handle, he comes back with that significantly improved. He's able to get into the lane like a lot more easily, and get to his spots a lot more fluidly. I think also what you would be able to see is the aggressiveness is
Mhm.
there. I know that a lot of people talk about Scottie Barnes' effort level. I think that in the best case scenario, he's going to be very aggressive. He is going to be trying to get inside a lot, take it to the rim a lot, going to the free throw line a lot. And paired with more offensive talent around him, more spacing, I think that that would help unlock his skill set where he would just really be able to thrive around all these other players who complement him. And last but not least, being healthy, being healthy throughout the season because he has had not major injuries, but just like the nicks and bruises, and like he gets these unlucky injuries. Last year, it was the orbital bone that he
Hmm.
smashed, and he missed a whole bunch of games. But hopefully,
And
best case scenario, he's not as injured. Go
and
ahead.
those injuries have a big impact on the way that he plays coming back from them. His when he rolls an ankle by stepping on a big man, when he catches an elbow going up for a rebound, that's when the aggressiveness drops off and he becomes tentative in that area because he's trying not to get hurt again immediately. So I think health is a big thing for keeping up that level of aggressiveness with him. Like, not that he gets scared of the contact, it's just that he starts to be more self-preservative because he's not trying to miss another bunch of games. It'll be interesting because last year he had the incentive of like the 65 game to try to get to the All NBA, which he'll still have that for award stuff, but I wonder how they'll manage his health and stuff with that not exactly there the same way for the value of his extension.
Right.
So we might see certain resting at appropriate times if they are in a playoff position and they're trying to keep him healthy for longer. But I agree with a lot of your best case scenario there. If he could get to 35% from three, that's huge. That means that he's going to have to get respected from out there. I do think that gets him uh, easy all-star berth, and I think he would definitely be in contention for that third team All NBA. Um, for me, for his best case scenarios, I'm thinking about the role that he is going to begin to play when Brendan Ingram is taking more shots. And I assume if RJ Barrett's still on the team, he's going to be taking shots. So I wouldn't be surprised if his usage went down a little bit in terms of shooting. So I'd like to see maybe like an efficient 20, 21 points per game. Because in terms of awards and all that stuff, like Evan Mobley's winning awards with an efficient 18 point per game. He
Yeah.
doesn't need to be super high scoring, but if his role is more of like a Bam Adebayo role, that's a fine point per game for him and let the other guys do a bit more of the scoring. What I would love to see, and I'm going to be interested to see how much, because last season he split time between point guard, a little bit of shooting guard. I think that him going, assuming there's no major injuries, him going full time as a four will mean more rebounds. So I can see him getting to a 9 rebound per game and hopefully getting back his blocks back up because last season his blocks ticked down a little bit. And I think that if he can get to like 1.8, 1.9 block per game, an all defense team it's looking a lot better because he has he's kind of at his best when he's at the back line being like a playmaker defender of these huge emphatic blocks. He's very good at those blocks that don't go out of bounds,
Hmm.
right? So I think if he's playing full-time four, I think we'll see that tick back up.
Yeah.
I don't like expect Yak to have some kind of increase in rim protection, so Scottie will be relied more on that. And I think taking Grady out of the starting lineup and replacing that with Brandon Ingram means that maybe Scottie has to do less help defense in certain areas, letting him stay closer to the basket. So I
Hmm.
could really see that part of his game tick up. And yeah, probably the same kind of like 1.4, 1.5 steals. I really think that if he can just focus on being this defensive menace that still does his playmaking thing, still does this, gets some catch and shoot threes, and benefits from the gravity of some of the other players to get some interior scoring, his efficiency can tick up. And then because his biggest thing is just, especially last season, was he was so inefficient, trying crazy shots all over the place. So I think if he can just become more efficient, that'll make a huge difference in the team's ability to win because they'll just be wasting less possessions.
Absolutely. Agree with all of that. Just to add on to kind of your point there, where you're talking about like last season where he's doing all of these kind of experimental moves and whatnot. I think a lot of that was also like the fact that he was forced into a role where he had to
Definitely.
like create a lot of shots. He had to come up with ways of, shouldering the burden because
Definitely.
they were asking him to play with the bench, and
Yep.
because of how in flux everything was, sometimes there wasn't really any offensive talent off of the bench. And so he had to do
Yep.
all of that. And it just did not look pretty. He was not in his comfort zone. So
Yep.
agree with all that. Okay, so here's the worst case scenario. So I'm going to throw some numbers out at you. And this is going to sound really ugly. But again, we have to talk about like realistic worst case scenarios. Okay, so 16 points,
Oof.
8 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 1 steal, 1 block per 36 minutes on 45% from the field, 25% from 3, 73% from the free throw line. And that sounds really ugly, and I don't think that's going to happen. Just putting that out there because I don't want people thinking I'm hating on him. But number one, we got to talk about shooting regression and just kind of his shot not coming around. Just it's not there, and he is relying on it more because he is not being aggressive enough. So like it's just basically the flip side of what we were talking about with the best case scenario. Best case scenario, he's more aggressive, going to the rim more often, and he's developing a good catch and shoot shot with a good pull-up shot. This is the opposite of that. He's not being aggressive, so he's settling for jump shots, and he's taking a ton of jump shots. And the reason I say 16 points per game is that if that happens, let's say what I just said happened, okay? Do you think that the team is going to continue to go to him as like a number one option? No.
No, and from what I've seen from him too, like what I actually thought was kind of progression last season was him continuing to shoot when he would miss, because the years before, what I find so frustrating is he'd open the game, miss once, miss twice, and he's like obviously feeling like, oh, I don't have it, okay. And then he's just not shooting, and then he would go like an entire first half with like 4 points because he's not shooting. So if he's around more talent, I could see him doing that where he goes, oh, I missed once, I missed twice. I'm not trying to screw the team over. I'm going to start going through Brandon. I'm going to start going through RJ. I could see him do that to himself, let alone the team going to him, right? Like maybe they don't want to try to get him going, but at the same time, I could see him just pulling the lever on himself and going, no, no, it's okay. I'll just distribute. I'll set picks, all this. So I mean, it sounds ugly, but yeah, if there's a drop in confidence, if there's a drop in that kind of stuff, I could see that happen.
And he would go to kind of maybe a bit more of like a Draymond mode
Yeah,
almost, where he's just like, I'm going to be a facilitator.
yeah,
Um, and then on the defensive end, I at this point I don't expect him to be a bad defender. Just
no,
really, I think he's turned the corner there. But let's just say he's just not as locked in. He's not as like jump off the page kind of super defender. He's just more of a good defender. And then like if all of that happens, then you're starting to look at his contract and you're like, this is an albatross. Like that this would be this, of course,
yeah,
again, worst case scenario. So that would obviously not be ideal. And I think in that scenario, the Raptors would just probably not make the playoffs. I think if Scottie is not at least, the second best player on your team, if he's like moving down and like becomes an actual like liability, the team is not going to go very far.
yeah.
So hopefully that doesn't happen. Maybe we should do the opposite because we're ending on this, down note when we're talking
Yeah,
about him. Maybe it'd be better if you start with the worst case
right.
scenario
That's
first.
probably a
So,
good call.
so let's do that. Okay. So the
Yeah.
next person that we're going to talk about, Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram. While I don't know, I think he's going to be the second best player on the team and thus deserve the second spot here. He could be the first player on the team, or he could, maybe somebody else surprises.
Mhm.
Maybe, Immanuel Quickley somehow turns the corner, becomes like a super guard, or, Jakob Poeltl is just, does his Tim Duncan impression that he does every couple of games, but does it every game or something like that. In terms of like the advanced stats, apparently Jakob Poeltl is like best player on the team, but let's just say that Brandon Ingram, I expect him to be the second best player on the team. So as we can see here, let's take a look at the projection. And the projection is pretty rosy, at least on the offensive side of the ball. So the projection says 23 points per game, almost 6 rebounds, almost 6 assists, almost a steal, and 0.7 blocks with 3.5 or 3.2 turnovers. on 48% from the field, 36% from three, and 82% from the free throw line. Wow, I'd be so happy if he was able to do that. That is like approaching an all-star level contributor. What do you think about those stats?
I mean, that's about what he's done for like the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah,
That's kind of his numbers for that time.
it's a bit
So
better, but yeah,
yeah, right. So I mean, I can totally see it because I have a feeling he's going to have his best season, and maybe that's me being rosy on it. But I think getting out of the whatever's going on in New Orleans, there's been several players that have come out afterwards and said, no, it's not good there. And getting kind of more consistency in the lineup around him versus you never know what
Alex
you're getting for.
McKechnie.
Yes, exactly, right. You're getting some of the best training staff because I was thinking about it the other day, and I'm not going to say like the words not to jinx it, but um, we haven't really had any major lower body injuries and stuff in time, whereas other teams are having it all the time. That's really could come down to the training staff or we've just got good injury luck. But the injuries we get are very ticky-tack. It's rolled ankle, it's a
Mhm.
contact injury, somebody's hurting their shoulder because someone ran into them. It's not severe. So
ACLs, MCLs, Achilles. Achilles
exact
have been the big one, and there have been
yeah.
some theories going around that the moves that some of the guys are doing, like jump stops and whatnot, have been like contributing to that. But
Yeah.
I can't exactly remember. So sorry, continue.
No, yeah, it's just that I mean maybe that comes down to our training staff, so good preventative medicine in that sense. And so yeah, hopefully and kind of this blends into my worst case scenario for BI is if he plays less than 35 games.
Yeah,
If he has more injury problems, I don't care what his numbers are, he could be getting 25 point per game, but if he's less than 30 games, we're cooked.
yeah.
Not I mean at most you're going to make the play in and probably lose. So very much the team goes wherever he goes, as long as he can stay healthy. If you have to start resting him on back to backs, if there's concern, definitely do that because I think you need to get at least 50 to 60 games out of him. And I think BI will want to do that to prove that he's not just some injury prone player and that there was more going on than that. So yeah, that would be my worst case scenario. I don't care what the stats are, is if he has injuries and if he's down, that's bad.
That absolutely 100%. In fact, you kind of stole my thunder here because I was going to say pretty much the same thing is that like it's not about the stats. I
Yeah.
mean, it is. And we can go into like kind of things that maybe we'll go with worst case scenario here. I like that. Um, where there are things that you touched on that. So I'll do the other thing, which is what you could see from him in terms of a worst case scenario, in terms of his play. So the injury thing is obviously a huge concern. The other smaller things are 3-point rate. So one of the things that the Raptors are going to need him to do, and I would be fully comfortable with him taking like 6 3-point attempts a game. I would hope for more. I would hope for something around 8 because the Raptors do need shooting, especially in the starting lineup with Yak, with Scottie Barnes in that front court. Those guys don't really or have not shown the ability to be high volume, good 3-point shooters. And he is more of a spot up 3-point shooter. I know that a lot of people are expecting him to be coming off of screens and shooting. That's not really his bag, but I would hope that he is able to stretch the floor and take at least, 5 or 6 threes a game. If he does less than that, and he has done less than that, and a lot of the criticisms about his game have stemmed from the fact that he will, handle the ball and pass up 3-point shots and then dribble in and then take a mid-range shot.
Yeah, if he does a DeMar long two, if he gets up 5 DeMar long twos instead of threes,
Yeah.
that would obviously be a bit of an issue. But I feel like he's very coachable and smart that it's easy to just like tell him, hey, take a step back, stop taking those.
Right. Another thing that I could see happening in a worst case scenario is that he does not mesh with the Darko scheme in that there's, the 3 seconds or less, or like you make a decision in 1 or 2 seconds and you pass the ball, shoot it, or drive. I could see him. He does like to cook. Like that is
Hmm.
kind of his thing. He likes, dribble, hezzy, pull up, tween, like all the, Hooper stuff. He does that kind of stuff. and I could see it not meshing perfectly with what the Raptors are trying to do. And in my opinion, like I don't dislike that. I think that there is a lot of value in terms of isolation scoring that he
Mhm.
could bring to the table in that regard. But if it doesn't mesh with the rest of the team, I could see that being a bit of a problem. I don't foresee it to be too, you know,
Yeah.
too much of a problem.
I mean,
Um,
he's coexisted the last couple of years. He's coexisted with two different sets of 20 point per game players, where it was CJ McCollum, Zion, and him.
yeah,
Like they were. I remember when the Raptors had three players averaging over 20. New Orleans was one of the other teams that constantly had it. And then when CJ was gone, the brief stint of DeJounte Murray, I don't even know if he even played many games, but that again, right? So he's existed with other players getting buckets, but I didn't watch enough New Orleans to see whether it was just your turn, my turn, blah, 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 because I don't know how much that would work, as you said, with Darko's offense, with what the Raptors are trying to do.
right. Um, let's get to the best case. We've kind of talked a little bit about the worst case, but it's kind of pretty simple. The best case scenario, I think, is that he actually mentioned one of the things that he was looking forward to playing, why he was looking forward to playing with the Raptors, and that was Jakob Poeltl. And
Hmm.
Jakob Poeltl is easily one of the best screeners in the NBA. He is an excellent screen and roll big, and he sets nice, big, solid screens, and he has really good hands. And when you put good pick and roll players with a good pick and roll big, they develop synergy, and it is a great feedback loop, especially in the half court. That's where the Raptors need a lot of help. Is
Hmm.
that's why they went out and got this guy, is because in the half court they were not very effective. They were not, despite the fact that they were running all these screens, they had all these complex plays, they were running around. It was not producing the points per game. Points per possession that they were hoping. My best case scenario is that it just really gels, and that maybe it's not reflected in points per game like with Scottie Barnes. It is more just about his flow and ability to operate in the offense. I could really see him and Jakob Poeltl having that super synergy. I could see him and Scottie Barnes having a really good synergy, him playing off of the ball, him and Scottie playing off one another. I think that that could work really well. And in terms of a best case scenario, I think like it's about percentages. I could
Hmm.
see him being, like 48% from the field, 40% from three. Like he's done it. And he's an efficient free throw shooter. He doesn't get to the line too often, but I don't see why he couldn't be just a very effective three-level scorer in the half court. And if the Raptors, let's say they really, because we're going on best case scenario here, let's say the Raptors become like a top four seed in the Eastern Conference, which is possible. The East
Yep.
sucks, and
Yeah.
hopefully they get to that point. Two All Stars is not out of the question. That happens all
Hmm.
of the time. If you're a top four seed, you gotta have All Stars.
Yep.
If you have a efficient 20+ point scorer who does other stuff, which he does, pass the ball, grab rebounds, he could get an All Star berth. It's not completely out of the question. So that's my best case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that. That'd be great. I am also looking forward to the what him and Yak can kind of draw up, because like seeing a couple players, you never know which players think which players are good. So that was cool for him to come in and say, yeah, Yak's a guy that I've wanted to play with. It's like, oh, interesting. He probably, I mean, Brendan Ingram seems like a student of the game, so he sees everything Yak does and thinks, okay, I could play off this really well. That'd be excellent.
Yeah, and
My
it's not too surprising because Yak was out west, he was on the
Yeah,
Spurs, and Dejounte Murray was.
yep,
They got to talk there. Dejounte Murray has
very
had
true.
nothing but good things to say about Jakob Poeltl, so there's
True.
obviously overlap there. But yeah, go ahead.
My best case scenario is 27 point per game,
Um,
4.5 rebound, and like 4 assist. He's becoming more of a play finisher.
right.
He can play make. He's shown that. He likes to play make. I think there was something showing that he's similar to Scottie. He enjoys the playmaking aspect, but they have to tell him, no, no, just go cook, just score. And if they push him to it and they say, because they've already mentioned, like, we want him to be an all-star again, we want to get him back to that. He has the ability to be a 27 point per game player. He totally has the scoring ability to do so. And if they just say, look, you're our go-to scorer, you're our guy for that, like the same way that the Knicks are just like, Jalen Brunson, go score. If they do that with him, he can easily get to that kind of 27, whatever. And then the other aspect of it is like 2 or 3 game winners because the Raptors have no, like this last season, had no ability to generate, you
Absolutely.
know, in the clutch, right? Scottie before was a decent clutch scorer, but it was more so like
Bully
on
ball.
putback, yeah, exactly, on putbacks, on that kind of stuff. Out of set plays, I mean, I've seen in the last couple of years a handful of game winners, one being Jakob Poeltl, one, was a Scotty one off of a clever little play, but they need that person who's going to say, give me the ball in the clutch moment. I'm going to put the team on my back. I'm going to score. So I would love to see what Brandon Ingram could do in that. And I could see him getting a couple game winners because the Raptors, I don't remember the stat now, but last season, there was like 10, 12 games that they lost by less than 5 points, right?
Absolutely.
So so many close games in a season where you're like not trying to be good. If you bring in somebody who can perform in the close games, all of a sudden you're at a minimum 35 wins, 37 wins. Like pretty easily you start to get there by just not giving away those games that are right there, right? So I think that would be the best case scenario if he can just come in and be that guy who's like, yep, I'm the guy in the clutch. I can be that guy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's go to the next guy. And we were just, singing his praises and talking about how wonderful he is. Jakob Poeltl, man in the middle, the guy who has, statistically, just if you look at the raw stats and you look at what the advanced stats say about a player, they say that he was last year was the Toronto Raptors' best player. I would say
He's
that,
efficient.
yeah, super efficient, really good
Hmm.
rebounders. I mean, I think that consistently rebounds are overlooked.
Yeah,
It is the overlooked aspect
for sure.
of basketball. Players talk, you talk about offense, you talk about defense, and of course he's a good defender, good on offense. Rebounds are so important. They are so important, and he brings that to the table. But we're kind of getting off track here. Let's do what we did with the other players, and
The worst case, yeah.
we have to talk about the projected stats,
Right.
and they are crazy. I don't think he's going to get to this. This was like best case scenario for this. Okay, so let's look at this. 16.9 points per game. Don't think he's getting there. 11 and a half rebounds a game, 3.5 assists, 1.3 steals, 1.6 blocks, and only 2.3 turnovers on
Okay.
62% from the field, 35% from three, and 64% from the free throw line. Like
Sorry, did that say 35% from three?
35.6. Well, he was
Yeah, it's
33.3%.
true, right? If you only take three, right?
Yeah,
And if you,
exactly.
yeah,
But I mean, that is, we'll,
that's,
we'll save that for the best case because number wise, that would be best case. Let's
yeah.
talk about worst case scenario. Obviously, there's an injury thing, like any type of big. Whenever you're talking
Hmm.
about a big, that you have to worry about their legs, their feet, especially like a true center like a Jakob Poeltl, who's very large physically. Any kind of bad fall on a foot or a leg, that's gonna, you hold your breath because they're so heavy. It's
Hmm.
like an elephant. You can kind of just break your foot just by stepping on it wrong. Uh, but aside from that, what my worry would be that last season was kind of the high water mark, and we're going to just be getting a kind of mediocre traditional center. That's what I would say in terms of worst case scenario, where he's efficient from the field, kind of. He's, his defense is mediocre. I mean, he is a good defender, but he is not a great defender. Okay, so when you stack him up against some of the top guys in the league, the Zubatses, the Brooke Lopez's, I don't want to say Giannis because they're different players, but the Jarrett Allens, those kinds of guys, those guys are consistently excellent on defense. Rudy
Hmm.
Gobert, those guys are just, they are the creme de la creme. They are going to be huge deterrents and also very stout shot blockers who are going to turn guys away. With Jakob Poeltl, it's more about foot speed and the ability to be there and contest the shot, but it's not like he is a brick wall around the rim. He's just kind of doing enough where you're not losing the game because of him on defense. If he takes a little bit of a step back there where he's just kind of mediocre defensively, that I could see that happening. The I think he's going to be good on with the rebounds. I think that if his push shot, because push shots, I think they're consistent. That's why they go to them, but they're also not as consistent as like a dunk or a
Yeah.
layup. And if his floater is not right, like I could see it happening. I don't think it's going to, but like in a worst case scenario, his floater is off and it's just kind of not as efficient as it has been. Then he's not as good of a pick and roll threat. Then he's not doing that kind of odd floor stretching thing where he's standing just outside the shot blocker and they have to kind of respect his floater.
Hmm.
And then, then he's just not exciting. And then you have a traditional center who is not stretching the floor, who is not doing the things that a forward would do, like on offense. And then the stuff that you expect them to do, which I don't think there's any way that he's going to be a bad rebounder. But if
Yeah.
he's not protecting the rim very well, then you've got just kind of a mediocre player. And then again, his contract would become an albatross. So that's worst case scenario. What do you think about that? Do you have any addendums there?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that part. Like I was looking, like when you're talking about his floater, I was looking into his floater and stuff, like for a short that I was planning, right? And he took slightly more floaters than Jokic did, which was
Wow,
crazy
that's
per game,
crazy. Yeah,
but was like 13% less efficient because Jokic is insane, whatever. Yak still was decently efficient, but it was his like most go-to shot.
yeah,
So if that floater falls off, yeah, suddenly he's like an 11 point per game player, and they're wasting a lot of possessions on him. Which, like, I don't know if you noticed last season, they would start a lot of games by just going to Yak like one, two, three times
yeah.
to just kind of set the tone.
And also, I
And
think I sorry to cut you off, but like
go ahead.
make the other team respect the roll man.
Yeah,
Because a lot of the
exactly.
time they will load up on the ball handler
Hmm.
because that is the game plan. It's like stop Scottie Barnes or
Yeah,
stop Quickley or stop RJ Barrett. You got to stop the penetration off of the
yeah,
guard. And so they'd go to Yak to make them respect him. But go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. So if Yak is struggling in that, you can have very bad starts to the game, and then they have to switch up their game plan. Typically, he would hit his first couple, so it wasn't a problem. But if he's struggling with that, and then the other aspect is like, not that he should be responsible for this, but when you add Brandon Ingram, who loves the mid range in, and then you've still got Yak, and then you've got Scottie, who is really liking to be in the post and the mid range at the elbow.
The
It
turnaround. Yeah.
could, yeah, exactly. He starts doing that turnaround. It can get really crowded in there. So if Yak is not, performing and spacing as best as he can, if he's not boxing out well, if he's not getting enough attention from his defense, things can get very, very crowded for Scottie in a hurry. And then you start to see Scottie start to have efficiency problems and everything. So Yak just basically has to do his thing and keep banging around down low, boxing out. So durability would be maybe the question mark. So he has to stay healthy, fight through the little bang ups and everything. So yeah, obviously health would be like the biggest downside because as we've seen, as Yak goes, so does the team because he is a very impactful player. But that might just be because the Raptors have never had a decent backup center behind him. That when he goes out, then you throw in Orlando Robinson or
Yeah.
Colin Castleton, and then obviously you're getting destroyed, right? So they wouldn't necessarily have the same kind of center to back him up. They've got different types of players like Mamu and um, like CMB, who's a rookie, who's small. Things
Yeah.
would get bad the second he's out. So again, there's a lot of pressure on him to stay healthy,
Yeah.
essentially.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about the best case scenario. Give me those numbers. We'll start with the numbers. Give me the numbers that are in the basketball reference, just to start. I would love those numbers. But more importantly, just there were segments of the season where he looked like kind of like Tim Duncan light.
Hmm.
Where in that, like, obviously Tim Duncan, one of the most underrated stars of his generation, in that it's not really like about kind of the wow factor. It's more about stringing together really good plays, like good play, 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 where a person who's watching the game holistically and not just focusing on one player or another is going to notice just this one guy doing the right thing over and over and over and over and over again. And if he has a stretch of a season where he's just that kind of player, it's going to propel the Raptors to win games. He is going to
Definitely.
win minutes. And then you put him up against like some of the better centers. I've already mentioned them. And he's going to be a bulwark against some of those guys who are so hard to stop. And
Hmm.
not just make them like slow them down on the other, on one end, because he is a big body, he can get in between them, but on the other end, making them work. Like that's the thing about him playing against Jokic, is that Jokic is just, you can't stop the guy. I mean, of course, he's going to go like ham on a smaller player or like a lighter player. He's just going to go right through them to the rim, and Yak stops at least a bit of that. But the way that you punish him is kind of what Anthony Davis did in their battles, where you got to go to him, you got to score on him because that's
Hmm.
his weakness. And he can do stuff like that. He can score against the other bigs in the league, especially with that floater, as we've talked about. But it's more just kind of like, is he being that guy that just strings together just for a whole game where you're nodding your head the whole game? And as soon as he steps out of the game, you're like, you notice it, and things start to
Yeah.
like tick downwards in terms of the effectiveness of the team. Because that's what I noticed last season. As soon as Jakob Poeltl would step out of the game, the Raptors, everything would go to pot.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's not as bad this season, but that's how I could. That's a best case scenario for me. Okay.
Yeah.
Unless you do you have anything else to say about
Nope.
him? Because we are kind of like we're really
Nothing to
taking
add.
our time here. Uh, we're gonna go to Immanuel Quickley next. And Immanuel Quickley, he is kind of my sleeper guy for this season
Hmm.
because we've talked about all the other players and there's big expectations for all the other players. I don't think that the average fan is expecting a whole lot from Immanuel Quickley, which I think is wrong because I think that he is probably one of the most, just like Jakob Poeltl, the Toronto Raptors do not have another type of
Yeah.
guard like him. There is a lot resting on his shoulders this season. So let's take a look at Basketball References average or projection. Okay, 20.9 points per game.
Ooh.
That, yeah, woo. 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, no blocks, 2 turnovers on 43% from the field, 38.7% from three, and 85% from the free throw line. Love those numbers. I would love those numbers. I think that that's exactly what the Toronto Raptors need. But let's talk worst case scenario. A lot of people are going to say that injuries and stuff like that. Of course, injuries are a thing, and it's kind of sort of the flip side of the same coin with the big centers, where you're worried about their feet and blah blah blah. With a smaller player like Immanuel Quickley is one of the smaller players on the team, and as a starter, he would be on the small side for a guard. Those kinds of players get banged around and they pick up different types of injuries just because they get clobbered trying to get into the paint. That's a bit of a worry for me. I think it's overstated.
Hmm.
I don't think he's as injury prone as people think he is. He had a big injury problem last season and towards the end of the season prior to that. But
But we also have to remember that he missed a lot of games for a death in the family as well,
right,
right?
yeah,
The
with the
year
RJ,
before
yeah,
last, right? Like one of his family members, like RJ's brother, obviously, but then IQ had one as well. So then he sat for a long period of time. So when you just look at like his games played, maybe you forget that. But exactly, like I don't think that he is a necessarily an injury plagued player. Like last season, he got screwed. Darius Garland went under him right away in that first game, in a game that he was cooking. He had like 11 points in the first like
he was
nine
great.
minutes. and then he got undercut, and then he just got hurt, and
Yeah.
then he had to fight back from that, right? So, yeah, I don't think that injuries are like the biggest concern with IQ.
No, I don't think so. I think that like he's going to exceed a lot of people's expectations,
Hmm.
even if he doesn't have a perfect season, because I think the bar is set so low for him, especially from the national media. It's like this guy doesn't even exist, or
Yeah.
like they're just not factoring him in at all. But in terms of worst case scenarios, his defense could be an issue. I think that as a smaller guard, you have to be more disruptive, and he isn't. He's not. He's never been a disruptive guard. He doesn't create a lot of deflections.
Hmm.
He's not doesn't play in the passing lanes. He is good at following players around the screen, but I could see that being a problem. Another thing is that 3-point shooting is mercurial. It goes up, it goes down. You have a hot stretch, you have a cold stretch. My worry is that his cold stretches are long, because that is
Hmm.
the primary way that he is going to score, is that pull up 3-point shot coming off of a screen and just letting it fly. And if he has a down shooting year, he's just not going to be as effective. He's not an amazing playmaker. He can make the basic reads out of the pick and roll, and I think he is a good pick and roll player just based on the fact that he is a really good shooter coming
Hmm.
off of a screen, and also just pulling up. But he's not an excellent playmaker. He's
Especially downhill.
right, yeah.
Downhill, he gets some tunnel vision. Yeah, so like as you're saying, if his 3-point isn't falling and he starts to try to drive for the floater, he's not very good at passing out of that when he gets collapsed on, because he really gets like he'll miss reads where the dump off option is right there for Yak, or Scottie has flared out a little bit. So yeah, like I could see the kind of things compounding,
Mhm.
that the 3-point's not working. Okay, well, now he's going to his least efficient shot and not playmaking from the position that he is best at.
Yeah, so then you would be talking about a small guard who's not doing enough on the defensive end. And then on the offensive end, his bread and butter is not there. And then, I mean, he's had in the past, his floater has been a weapon. That has been one of the best ways that he's been able to score. But as a smaller guard who's a little on the frail side, it's very difficult for those guys to get all the way to the rim. You bounce off of players when you're that small. You don't go through players. And he
Mhm.
doesn't have that crafty footwork in the post where he's able to score around and through the trees, like an Iverson or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just not that kind of player. He's a player that shoots the three very well, and he has a pull up. So if that isn't hitting and he's not contributing on the defensive end, then you're looking at a player that's just not going to be worth his contract. And I think that
Hmm.
that's the fear. So that would be the worst
Definitely.
case scenario. Let's talk about the best case scenario. Um, we're talking about an elite 3-point shooter from the guard spot who is generating his own shot, either through a pick or a screen, coming off of a screen, playing off of the ball, moving around the court. He was actually, in terms of the offensive advanced stats, he was the best player on the Toronto Raptors. He was, as soon as he stepped on the floor, his ability to create his own shot in the half court was like manna from heaven. You cannot, that is the rarest skill in the NBA, is the ability to self-create a good 3-point shot. And he has the ability to do that. If he can score, like if I'm looking at these stats here, so 21 points per game with 39% from three, and he's taking it says here 8 3-point attempts per game. Let's say he bumps that up even higher, like he's getting closer to the 10 3-point attempts per game. You're looking at like a really good player. You're looking at an
Yeah.
incredibly impactful offensive player. This is why I think that he is so slept on, why I think that he has the potential to be a big time offensive player. And if he can do that, I mean, the Raptors could be a surprise team in the East. He could be the engine in the half court and be the player that can carry them over the finish line when his shot is going. And I think that
Hmm.
there's no reason to suspect that it won't. So Yeah, that's my take on the best case scenario, even though it doesn't have
And
anything to do with numbers.
well, but no, but I'm in the same way where my best case scenario is that he is taking 10 threes like Darko has wanted him to take. And because I don't think he's not gonna start shooting like terribly. So he's still gonna like be a threat and he's still gonna create a lot of, he's gonna create that spacing that guys like Scottie and Brandon will need. And it's like, that should create waves where it's going to improve looks for Scottie. And even like he takes some long threes because his release is a little bit slow. So he sometimes needs a bit of space with it.
Mhm.
And those can also create excellent rebound opportunities for like long rebounds for Scottie and stuff like that. Like
And
more
Yak, yeah.
offense come exactly right for Yak is very good at grabbing offensive rebounds, putting him back in. So him taking more and more threes confidently will create offense in other ways, even if they're not going in. So I think, yeah, like my best case scenario is that he's just letting it fly. Um, and also probably best case scenario is that he doesn't have this kind of struggle with meshing next to BI and RJ with it. You got to see how it all works with RJ being more of a downhill guy and then with kind of a mid-range guy. If he can't kind of fit between the cracks of that, I could see that being an issue, but I don't really see as to why that would be a problem. He just has to come around screens. He just has to, set him up. I'm not too worried about it, but yeah, if they didn't mesh, that'd be an issue.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very pie in the sky, and it's obviously he's never going to get to the heights that this other player has. But I would like to see them run some sets, like rip some pages out of the Golden State playbook, and
Mhm.
have him play that off-ball role where he is this gravitational force moving around on the perimeter, and then you have other players that are trying to set him up for those threes. Scottie Barnes, Jakob Poeltl, Brandon Ingram, RJ Barrett. Those guys should all have eyes in the back of their heads trying to find this guy on the perimeter when he is not being guarded. And that's just going to make the offense pop in the half court. So that is the second to last player. And we're going to finish with the final player here. And he is very feast and famine. So this is perfect
Mhm.
for the best case, worst case scenario. Because I think that there's like, he has, obviously, we're talking about RJ Barrett here. But in terms of reaching best case scenario or reaching worst case scenario, there's no other player on the team that is as polarized and is as able to reach those two,
It's true.
more is as likely to be worst case scenario or is as likely to be best case scenario. Most of these guys are going to fall somewhere in between those two things. Whereas I feel like RJ Barrett is a guy that could really either pop or really sink. Like he is a really big wild card here. So let's talk about his projections because again, all of these projections are very rosy. The only one that I think kind of undersold how well a player could be was Scottie Barnes, where I think that I think he could be more efficient. So let's talk about RJ. 23 points per game. So there's no way that these
We're
guys are
gonna
going
have
to be.
four players over 20, and
Yeah,
then Yak is averaging 17.
yeah, I know. So these are
It's a
all like
70 win pace.
yeah. 23 points per game, 6.7 rebounds per game, 5 assists, almost 1 steal, half a block, 2.8 turnovers on 48% field goal percentage, 53% from three, and
Sorry, let's say 53 or 35%
oh,
from
sorry,
three.
35% from three.
Okay, I was like 53% from three. Okay, give him the
Yeah, I know.
MVP.
And 67% free throw percentage, which is
Oh, so his free throw's not improving that much, but
no, no. So let's talk worst case scenario. Um, why don't I let you lead with this? Let's hear your
so
take on this.
his efficiency dipped from his first half season to his second season. If his efficiency dips more, mainly if his three-point shot falls off even more, because he's at a point where it's a sustainable three-point shot and he hits enough where he can be more respected on that. But if that falls off and his finishing at the rim just continues as it is, and then his free throw doesn't get better, you're looking at a very inefficient season all of a sudden for him. And I don't even know how you keep giving him looks if you've got the other three on-ball players that are going to need, like, especially if Quickly's having a good season, where do you fit RJ in that if he's being inefficient? I'm like, he'll keep adding rim pressure, but if he's not scoring them, then you're wasting a lot of opportunities. And then the other thing is that if his defense hasn't, I don't expect his defense to have changed much. He's in year, was it 6 or 7? I don't expect his defense to have changed much, but if he is somehow a worse defender, it is such a big hole for somebody like Scottie to try to cover because IQ is not covering it. It's just like Immanuel Quickley and RJ through all of their lineups together, just their two-man lineup, they were a -11 throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
Tanking season, nobody had a lot of great ones, but they didn't really win a lot of their minutes together. So they're not really supporting each other defensively. And if RJ is even worse, that's a problem. And then my last worst case scenario is, I don't know if you've seen the video of him working on mid-range shooting with Drew Hanlon and stuff. He's not typically a mid-range guy. If he comes out the gate trying to be a mid-range guy and it doesn't work, it's all kinds of problems because then you've got three guys trying to operate in the mid-range. You've got, but ideally, it's him adding an aspect to his game, making himself a better chance of a three-level player. But if he comes out and tries to put up mid-range and it doesn't work, then he's going to just try to revert. It's all efficiency and a little bit defense.
Yeah, that is bang on. The efficiency is an issue. What I was impressed with when he first got here in his first season, half season, was his ability to slash and get to the
Yeah.
rim and score there. And he was efficient in that play. He was really good at using those screens to get slash right into the paint. And then he had that great last step to the basket where he could get it up off glass and finish. I want that to come back. If it doesn't, that's going to be an issue because that is his like main value add is the
Yeah.
ability to break down a defense
Yeah.
and get all the way to the rim. There aren't a
Mhm.
ton of guys like I think Scottie Barnes can do it in his own way, kind of herky jerky, back to the
Yeah.
basket, spin, all that kind of stuff. But in terms of just like the usual way that a team gets to the basket is the way that RJ does it, which is drive to the rim and get a guy on your shoulder and be able to kind of just work your way past it. And he's very solid and strong. He can get to the rim. If he can't do that, and he is shooting a lot of jump shots, I feel that's where it's not gonna work for him.
Yeah.
And I think that his 3-point shot, I just in general, I think that we've seen what he offers from that.
Yeah.
And the reason that I feel that way is he has sped up his release a little bit, which it's gotten better there, but it's still clunky. And he has that odd form where he kind of puts the hand over the ball and then
Yeah.
does
He
like you
he
see it at the
blocks the
free throw
ball
line.
with it, and it's insane. Yeah.
He does it at the free throw line, which is one of the reasons I think his free throw percentage is so bad, is because he has that weird kind of thing where he just puts his hand like it's very bizarre.
Yeah.
And
He legitimately like fully blocks it,
yeah.
and then he just kind of tries to pull it away. It's
And then it's pure muscle memory from that point, and you're
yeah.
not getting any input from the eyes. So, like, I think we're seeing kind of a high, like 35%, which is not too bad.
No, it's
35% is fine if from
it's doable.
but if he doesn't do the other thing where he doesn't get to the rim and his free throw percentage doesn't recover, that's where you see starting to see the downside. Everything else is built around that. The passing, which is good, the the 3-level scoring where players have to play off of him because they're afraid of if they're playing up on him and with that slow release, it's not gonna be good. Let's get to best case scenario. So why don't we just build off of that point? His slashing
Yeah.
is monumental. And
Yeah.
it goes right back to what he was doing earlier when he first came to the Raptors, where he's just this force driving to the rim. And he's using those good screens from Jakob Poeltl and from other players. I'm sure CMB is, if he is playing off the bench or he's playing a lot of minutes with the bench, he's going to be playing with those screens from CMB, who's a very good screener. and just punching it to the basket and forcing other teams to collapse in the paint. And then he's going to be kind of like a point guard. And you see it like Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade is one of the best players of all time. So take this with a grain of salt, of course.
But a premium slasher.
Premium slasher.
Yeah.
And then even though he's not really a point guard because he's not doing all of the, fancy passing and all, he could, but that wasn't his game. His passes came because he went inside, he drew two defenders, somebody was open, he got the ball to them. And RJ has, if he's doing that and he is really able to score at the rim, and maybe I'm not expecting him to be an 80% free throw shooter, but if he's in the 70s, and he's drawing fouls, he's one of the best players on the team at drawing fouls, like if not the best, because he puts a lot of pressure on the rim and he's crafty. He's got good footwork where he's
strong. Yeah, exactly. He can get up through the contact to the point where the ref will give him the call.
He's strong, and also like he's so strong that you really got to foul him. Like, that thing where like Giannis, the reason he goes to the line all the time is because other teams are like, this guy is friggin' enormous and like built like a tank. I got to really foul him. Like, no doubt about it, foul him in order to stop him from scoring inside. And obviously RJ's not Giannis Antetokounmpo, but the guy's big, like he's stocky and strong, and he's got broad shoulders, and he puts his shoulder into you, and players think like, I have to foul this guy for real. And you don't have to sell it that much when guys are just pounding you like that. They're just going to send you, it's going to be a parade to the free throw line.
Yeah.
If that is the case, if he is really getting downhill every possession after possession after possession after possession, that is going to really open things up for other players. We talked about IQ, guys like Grady Dick, guys like Jakob Poeltl, guys like Ochai Agbaji. Those guys are going to be getting open shots over and over and over again. That's going to really help the offense as well. So in a glass half full scenario, maybe it's not about the numbers, because we've seen him put up numbers. Last season, he had a lot of points, but they weren't being scored very efficiently. If he's able to just fix that part of his game where he can get back to going to the rim and being effective slashing to the basket, he's going to get there in terms of his offense. The one other thing you mentioned on defense, how you didn't think he was going to improve, and I kind of agree, but I also kind of want to push back a little bit. I've been impressed with his one-on-one defense because his issue is his blinders.
Yeah, his awareness. Yeah,
he has the horse blinders on, where he's looking at the ball over here, he gets back cut. He's looking at his man, something else happens where he fails to help. If he can just add just like that little bit of awareness, just that tiny bit more, where he can figure out and read plays on the defensive end, it's going to help his game tremendously, because he can be a good point of attack defender. He can be a good one-on-one defender in isolation scenarios, especially. And also he has to get better at his screen navigation as well. So if he can get those things and just become an average defender, maybe even like everybody's talking about bench. If he's playing off of the bench, the level of competition in terms of who he's going to be defending is going to be way lower. Yeah. And maybe that's where he's going to have the ability to pop and really win minutes, is if he's not being tasked with guarding these star players on the perimeter. Yeah. So maybe his way to reach his potential is off the bench, but that's kind of
something I noticed, right? When you look at the lineup stats, some of our best lineups included, like last season, included Davion Mitchell and RJ at the same time. People are saying, okay, if RJ is losing so many minutes, how is he on so many positive lineups? Well, if you watch Davion Mitchell as a defender, is he thinks for other players, right? Like totally. I saw, like there were other instances where it looks like somebody else made a mistake. It's like, no, because Davion is trying to tell Jamison Battle where to go here. He's thinking for other players.
Right.
Jamal Shed. Exactly. Jamal Shed does that in like a smaller sense as he's finding his own voice and everything. He's maybe not as like intuitive as Davion is, but putting RJ next to Jamal, who is not like as a lockdown defender. He doesn't have it yet. He doesn't have the size. He's more active of a defender than his actual defensive ability has been so far, but his brain is really working. And I think that could help improve RJ in that. And then on the flip side, if he is playing minutes with Scottie Barnes, this is where Scottie could actually help improve RJ as a player. As Scottie becomes more of a leader, as he finds his own voice, he has been more talkative and he can really be a quarterback of the defense, helping RJ stay aware of those back cuts, stay aware of the people behind him, everything. And it doesn't seem like it's too big of a task for Scottie to worry about and stuff. So I think there is still maybe a realm where, best case scenario, he develops as a defender with kind of the help of those guys around him who are keeping him honest as a defender, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like off of the bench,
Hmm.
it seems like there's more of that type of player, like
Yeah,
Ochai Agbaji
definitely.
and Jacoby Walter, Jamal
CMB.
Shed, CMB,
Hmm.
even Jonathan Mobo. Like, I don't
Yep.
know how much he talks on defense. I haven't really noticed that. But like what you're saying is totally right. And also, like with Davion Mitchell, it's kind of a yin yang kind of thing where uh, he sucked on offense. I mean, he
Hmm.
was started shooting 45% from three when he joined the Heat, so that
Heat
kind of
culture.
flipped it. But on the Raptors, he was just not good on offense.
Yep.
RJ was,
Yep.
especially early in the season. On defense, RJ was not very good. Davion Mitchell really was, and he would pick up that top option.
Hmm.
And when Immanuel Quickley is in the game, you don't really have that kind of yin yang kind of thing. It's there's a lot of duplication, a little bit. They're
Yeah.
different types of players, but they've both got similar weaknesses. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I see a realm where RJ can play well next to Ochai, can play well next to Jacoby. My big fear is him playing next to Grady because then you're doubling down on your
right.
two weakest defenders.
With
Grady
that
is
said, though, with that said, some of the best moments from RJ came at the beginning of the season when it was
very true.
just him and Grady.
They
But
could cook together, they could score together, everything, right? Um,
I
yeah,
think
like
that
they
they
have that kind of synergy.
I think that the reason that they cooked so much was because it was literally them as the offense.
Yeah,
Everybody else is the defense, right?
yeah.
You got Davion Mitchell, you got Jakob Poeltl, you had Ochai Agbaji, you'd have all of these other guys who are literally like all like the 80% of what they're thinking about is like, how do I stop the other player from scoring? And then you got these other two guys. You got Grady, who had his best moments of the season at the very beginning when he was playing next to RJ. And RJ had the best moments of his season when he was playing next to Grady. But it was because those two were the guys on
Hmm.
offense and they could just kind of play on one half of the court and everybody else would play on the other half of the court. And
I
I'm
mean, and that's
hoping
what the
that's,
bench
yeah,
would be if they were involved in any of that. And you will
yeah,
obviously like the way most teams do it, and Raptors especially as well, they stagger starters with bench and everything. So you will get a lot of lineups where it's RJ plus bench and Scottie plus bench and IQ plus bench. So that'll happen. But I see what you're saying, like them two and just a bunch of dogs,
right.
and that can probably still work. Lots of teams have one not great defender. Lots of teams
Yeah.
have one and a half not great defenders, and they just kind of compensate and work around it. I think there's a workaround for that. So, yeah, I mean, maybe like for it to be worst case scenario with RJ, he'd have to be like somehow a really, really atrocious defender, which I don't think is really atrocious because he plays physical. He tries.
Yeah.
Like you don't get non-effort from him. Same with Grady. Grady tries. Um, so like I don't think they'll ever be like worst defenders in the league or anything.
Grady
Um,
is almost there. If you
yeah,
look at the advanced stats, he's
it's
like
true.
2% or something like that,
But he
second
gets
percentile.
white guys get attacked more, right? So you get the ISOs against you. You
White
get those
shooter.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get like you get clear outs where it's like, okay, now Donovan Mitchell wants to ISO you. Now Trey Young wants to ISO you. And it's like there was one of Grady's best defensive moments ever was in that I don't know if it was overtime, whatever, against the Kings, but De'Aaron Fox cleared out against them and Grady got a stop. And then De'Aaron Fox cleared out against them again. And Grady got the steal and they
Yeah.
won the game from it. And that was like, he was like, I'm gonna cook this skinny kid. And
Yeah.
Grady actually stood up. So I don't know. Maybe that'll be best case scenario for Grady is that he won't be one of the bottom
Yeah,
defenders in the
I'm
league.
not looking for excellence. I mean, we're kind of getting off topic here because we were talking only about the starters, but let's talk about Grady because, like,
Yeah,
I'm not looking for excellence on the defensive end from Grady Dick. I'm looking
no,
for competence, or
exactly.
even just like slightly, because there's a difference between being sub mediocre, like in the 40th percentile, and being in the second percentile.
Yeah,
If you're in the
yeah,
40th percentile and you're doing stuff on offense, you can be a, good role player. You can be a
yeah,
good role player.
yeah,
If you're in the second percentile on defense, you got to be like Jokic, or like
yeah.
maybe that's going too far.
Trey Young.
You got to be like Trey Young,
Yeah,
exactly. You got to be so good on offense that you are like more than making up for
yeah.
this atrocious defense. So he's got to get up to passable. He's got to get to passable. In any case, that is the best and worst case scenarios for all of the starters. I don't, as we mentioned, it's kind of, I think four of those players are going to be starters. RJ is the one guy that where maybe it's not so sure he's going to be a starter, but he is an important member of the team and he has a big salary, so it's worth talking about him. Now let's get to one of the guys, one of the people who has, as a result of there being a lack of news, has really been one of the most talked about Raptors, and it is the newest Toronto Raptor, Sandro Mamukelashvili, who has been playing for Team Georgia in FIBA Eurobasket and kind of showing out, like kind of doing some stuff for them. He's the top offensive player for them. He gets a lot of touches. He is probably the focus of the defense, and he's had a couple of really good moments. So let's get into what he has been able to do. Here's a picture of him. Somebody photoshopped him into a Raptors jersey, but he's been drawing attention around the league. For example, a good follow on Twitter, and he is a Celtics guy. Don't hold that too much against him, but I do like his reporting. Keith Smith, I don't know if you follow him, the kind of, hefty guy who does a lot of articles. He works for Spotrac, who do all the salary stuff, but he mentioned it's a pretty deep front court group in Toronto, but Sandro Mamukelashvili has a chance for a breakout season. Should start as the primary backup for Jakob Poeltl. Raptors have to be excited about what he's shown so far in Eurobasket. Really good performances from Mamukelashvili so far. And that's from, a national media guy.
A Celtics guy for most part.
Celtics guy for most part. He does some media stuff, but I guess he's been watching FIBA Eurobasket.
Yeah.
And he did have, why don't we just throw on some of the highlights here, because he did win man of the match for Georgia against Spain. And Spain is one of the top teams in Europe. They were better when, Pau Gasol, the Gasol brothers were there, but he had a really good performance there. Let me just turn off the volume so that we can talk over it. But he was really cooking from all over the floor. He had his 3-point shot going. He was, making passes. He is a pretty nifty offensive player who can kind of play in a bunch of different ways. And he is very reminiscent of another player in terms of height, in terms of versatility, in terms of kind of being a European player that the Toronto Raptors signed. Obviously, Bo Cruz, aka oh god,
he's on Spain.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's in
Juancho Hernan Gomez.
Yeah, he's not in this shot right now, but he's got like bleach blonde highlights now in the Eurobasket. So
yeah, he's a playboy. He's a movie star. He's got to do what he's got to do.
yeah,
But he is obviously a very good international player as well. So you just saw there Mamu making a really nice pass off of a drive.
Good ball movement. Yeah.
And he won the man of the match, as I mentioned. He had, let me just pull up his stats there. So he had 19 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists on really good percentages. He
And
had
remember, these are 40-minute games too.
40-minute games. Yeah. On 6 of 11 shooting, 4 of 5 from 3. Sorry, excuse me, that was 2. 2 of 6 from 3, 5 of 6 from the 3-point line, from the free throw line, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and 1 steal. So he was very good in that game. The unfortunate part is that this might kind of send shivers down your spine if you are a Raptors fan, because there was another guy who did very well. I already mentioned him, so I'm spoiling kind of the downside risk here. Juancho Hernan-Gomez, who really had an awesome, I think they won the Euro Cup.
Yeah, I think he got MVP or something of it, didn't he? Or
His
did
brother,
his
his
brother
brother
get it?
did, but he was the man of the match in the
Yeah.
clinching game where they won the gold, because he just hit like 7 threes, I think it was, or something, and he just blew the doors off of whoever they were facing. I can't quite remember. But as you can see here, if you can read this tiny font, you might want to zoom in here. He's only shooting 20% from 3. And I wish I had the Kill Bill, the siren sound, the whir, 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 because that would very obviously be a disaster scenario. And I mentioned, because Juancho Hernan-Gomez, if you remember, I mean, he was a bench player, and he played 2 years ago when the Raptors were having that nightmare season where they pre-blow up.
Yeah.
And they went to him and they were like, he could do some stuff. He was a really good cutter off of the ball. He could handle it a little bit. He was decent defensively. He could grab rebounds. That is kind of the kind of guy that Mamu is. And I said at the beginning of this, like halfway through the season, I said, if Juancho can shoot 35% from 3, and that's not even that good, especially for a specialist or a guy with a rep of being a shooter, he would be a rotation player, because he plays the game the right way, did some good stuff. He shot 25% from 3, and that's just not good enough. Like that,
Yeah.
unless you're like a superstar defender, which he was not, it's not good enough. Wanch is very similar. You're going to want him to shoot the ball at least kind of 35%. And thankfully, unlike Juancho, there is more of a track record of success. And he has shot near around 40% multiple seasons with the Spurs. So it shouldn't be something that you're too worried about. But again, you got to mention that kind of stuff. What have you seen from Juancho? Are you surprised by him? Oh, excuse me.
From
Jesus Christ.
Sandro.
Sandro.
Yeah. Did you see the dunk against Greece?
Oh my God. Yeah. I think I have that in my, yeah, I have it.
Yeah,
Let me
pull
just,
that up. It's second best dunk because obviously that Finnish kid had that insane dunk, that like 18-year-old Finnish, 17-year-old Finnish kid, but probably the second best dunk from Euro basket right in front of Giannis's face.
yeah, he yammed it. And the first angle, so let me just pull this up here because I think it is a pretty good, yeah, it is a good dunk. But the second angle is a lot better than the first. So if you're watching, just peep the second angle here because it is way more impressive than the. Hold on. Okay, so here it is right here. And he just kind of floats there and just yams it on him. That was a really, really nice dunk. That was against Greece. And it shows that he is not just a shooter. Oh, God, I sound like Jack and Matt on the broadcast when they're talking about Grady Dick. But
Look at that.
a guy who
Do the
can
contact.
drive and shoot and cut and do some stuff on offense. And of course, everything is predicated because, as you can see here, they are playing him kind of maybe not in this shot. It's just the defense is atrocious. They're not guarding him at all from any part of the floor. They're not guarding him from 3 or for the drive. But a lot of the time, you will want to guard a player from the 3-point line if they're shooting threes very well. And if you're shooting threes very well, and you can drive too, like we just saw, then you're a versatile player and you can do some stuff and you can earn some minutes that way. You can drive and shoot, and that makes you a useful bench player. So, again, the Toronto Raptors have had atrocious luck, especially with European shooters. Svi Mikhailuk springs to mind, Linus Kleza, Juancho Hernan Gomez. These guys were all busts when the Raptors signed them. They were all got exactly the same kind of buzz where everybody was like, finally, we've got a bench player who can shoot. No. Hopefully this is different. And I know Mamu Muse, if you're listening, I have high hopes, but the guy, he's gotta break the curse. The Raptors are a cursed team when it comes to this
Yeah.
type of player.
Well, he's at least like I know because Pop wasn't around most of last season, but he is somewhat of a Pop guy, which is nice. I feel like that makes him like a Greg Popovich guy. I feel like that makes him a little bit more resistant to the curse, hopefully.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, the
and
other guys that we've gotten from the Spurs, I mean, even Thad, the other guys that the
yeah,
Raptors have gotten from the Spurs have been pretty good. So,
yeah, yeah. And and like again, like he'll be playing a lot of his minutes with Jacoby and with Grady, who are both pretty good shooters. So maybe he's not the guy who's just trying to shoot all the time, but he can just step out and space it. He seems like, I mean, from what I've seen of him, he seems like he's a decent passer. He's a pretty active player. Moves around a lot. So there could be some pretty interesting stuff that the bench does. I wonder how he fits in next to somebody like CMB, next to Mobo. I think a lot of how Mobo got a lot of his, I mean, I don't know how many minutes Mobo will get this year, but a lot of how much his offense came last year was just being right place, right time under the basket to get those dump offs. He's a pretty good dunker spot player. So if Mamu is moving the ball, if Mamu's getting a little drive and some dump offs, they can create a little bit of nice offense there. That doesn't like he seems like he has more to his game than Juancho did in terms of his 3-point shot isn't falling. I don't have again, he was signed as like a minimum guy. Raptors fans, and I think a lot of teams do this, but you put so much on somebody who was signed for a minimum
they were
and you
kicking the
expect them.
tires on him,
Yeah,
that was the problem with the Raptors front office, is that
yeah,
they just struck out on all of their
yeah.
kicking the tires guys, because every team does it, and occasionally, like, they're all pros. And a lot of the guys, like, hidden gems, like, they did strike gold, like, especially
Hmm.
with guys like Davion Mitchell.
Yep,
Like, that was a hit. They got a hit
yep.
there. You know what I mean? Like, but in that, they had a big dry spell there. And
The
yeah,
the the Orlando Magic is kicking tires on both the backup tanking centers we had, Orlando Robinson and Colin Castleton, and they want to get to the finals,
I know.
right?
Yeah,
Maybe they will work out with them. Maybe they'll
maybe.
pop, maybe they won't, but that's what these players are signed for. Like I remember last year, people being like, "Oh my gosh, Orlando Robinson is terrible." It's like, yeah, that's why he's on a two-way.
Yeah,
That's why he's getting
exactly.
10-day contracts. What do
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
expect from these
Yeah,
players?
Mamu is a little bit more seasoned, has a little bit more. There's more reason to expect him to be a good player than the other
Yeah,
players. So, yeah, hopefully he's able to make us all proud and, you know, get. Hopefully, Mamo Muse. I know
yeah,
that there was. If you were obviously around when. Aaron Baines was on the Toronto Raptors, and he had that insane Twitter account that would, like,
yeah,
blazed him 24/7, and
yeah.
then it became like a toxic Raptors versus Aaron Baines Muse account where they
Oh
were
my
like
gosh.
constantly trading barbs. Hopefully,
Yeah.
it's not that situation. Hopefully, Mamu Muse and
Yeah.
Toronto Raptors Twitter can be on the same page.
Yeah.
There's one more thing I want to talk about. We should talk about, excuse me. I'm being very selfish here. Is the free agents. Because there are a couple of free agents left, and there was one that was just recently made available, and he's not on this list, but let's take a look. A lot of these guys are restricted free agents, but TSN has here the best remaining NBA free agents, and you can just pencil in Olivier Maxwell,
Max sense.
Maxence Prosper. So here, there's Josh Giddey, Al Horford, Jonathan Kuminga, Quentin Grimes, Russell Westbrook, Precious Achua, Cam Thomas and Ben Simmons. And some of these guys are just in a contract dispute. So Josh Giddey, Jonathan Kuminga, Quentin Grimes. Is Quentin Grimes? I think he's a
Yeah,
restricted.
he's restricted free agent with Philly. Yeah,
And
and
Cam,
Cam. Yeah.
Cam Thomas. So all those guys, they're just angling for more. And the reason that they are still free agents is because the teams that they're on can just sign them for whatever contract the other team offers. So let's say
Hmm.
somebody came in and offered Josh Giddey $20 million a year. The Bulls would be like, "Hooray!" and they would match, and Josh Giddey would be, crying, and you know, same with Jonathan Kuminga, same with Cam Thomas. So you can kind of ignore them, but like some of the interesting names here, Ben Simmons. I know that some people still kind of like him. I think the ship has kind of sailed on him.
Yeah.
Quentin Grimes would be nice, but I think that he will be getting a contract from Philly at some point. Russell Westbrook, I think, would be a good pickup for some teams.
The Kings apparently are trying to they might even move off of Devin Carter to have room for Westbrook. It's insane. They're trying to move Malik Monk or Devin Carter
That
to
doesn't.
sign Westbrook. What are they doing?
They got to get
They're so funny.
Adam Silver's got to make Vivek sell the team because that
Yeah,
guy has no clue what he's doing.
honestly.
But yeah, maybe we can use this as a springboard to talk about Omax, who has the Dallas Mavericks have given up on, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, because they want to have room to sign Dante Exum, who they had promised or whatever. I don't know if he was like rehabbing an injury or something like that, but they really like Dante Exum, who's like a decent low usage player who had a good year or two with Dallas recently. So that's apparently they gave up on Omax to have room for Dante, which means like they tried to kind of look at trade routes, which obviously they can't really take money back. So yeah, they just cut him and waived him. Now, let me ask you this. I don't know exactly the amount that the Raptors would have to cut to, because they don't have the room now. They could
No,
send to a training camp deal. They could do that. They could cut somebody in, but I
he'd
think they'd
have
have
to
to
accept that too, because
exactly.
there might be another team that's willing to offer him a guaranteed spot,
I don't know
not
why
like a,
Brooklyn wouldn't.
yeah, could be
I
Brooklyn.
because Brooklyn drafted four guards and a big. They got room for kind of that 6'7", 6'8" wing. I think Brooklyn would make a lot of sense. And then yeah, like so, is there anybody that we would cut to have room for that?
You would have to cut somebody like Mobo,
Yeah.
and Omax is younger. They kind of similar-ish players. Both have problems with the
Mhm.
finishing.
Yeah.
Both are kind of tall,
Yeah.
forward-ish, wing-like bigs, small ball bigs. It just kind of depends on what you expect from Omax, because Omax does have the pedigree advantage over Mobo,
Yeah.
where he was drafted higher. He was considered one of the blue chip prospects for the Mavericks. But obviously, a lot of the shine comes off of the coin when a team gives up on a player because they have had the player in their system. They've gotten the look at them. They know the problems with the prospect. Maybe his hands are no good. Maybe
Mhm.
his motor isn't as good as you would hope. All of those kinds of things. So that's kind of a warning sign. But then again, you have to factor this in. Like, who is cutting him? Is it the guy who just made the most disastrous trade of all time?
True. It's true.
Is that the front office that's giving up on him?
Yeah.
Which is like the whole Doncic thing is very curious because other than the Doncic move, I think that he did a really good job putting the Dallas Mavericks together.
Yeah.
So maybe outside of that, and maybe there's more to the story, because when you do, when they, if say Doncic was still on the Mavericks and they cut Omax, you would say, oh, Nico Harrison really knows what he's doing. That means that this guy's no
Sure.
good, right?
Yeah.
But now that Doncic is gone and he made the worst trade of all time, you have to think to yourself, did they perhaps pass up on a guy who could become a worthwhile player in the right circumstances? So,
Yep.
yeah, I think we'd be remiss to not mention him, because I did make a tweet saying that Bobby Webster should go out and sign him. But anyway,
Any random, especially a Canadian that comes available, I just
exactly. There's that.
tweet out in all caps, Bobby, wake up. And even if I don't really have any visions of them being on the team.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then some of those other free agents, like Al Horford is apparently just waiting for Golden State to make a move. Like he's supposed to end up there.
Yeah, he's not going to sign with any team that he would, like, unironically, he would rather retire than go to a team that is not a contender. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
let's be honest, he's ticked every single box that there is in the NBA. I think he's actually, Al Horford, it's a complete tangent here, is one of the most underrated players ever.
Definitely.
And the reason I say that is because not that he's like an amazing player. He is just, nobody mentions him as a great player. And I think at his peak when he was on those Atlanta squads, and then his like second kind of peak where he was like, this is the guy that was the primary defender on Embiid when the Celtics were just every year, just spanking the Philadelphia 76ers. Yeah. He was like Marc Gasol 2.0 when it came to Joel Embiid, and not many players can do that. Al Horford also became had that second life where he was a 3-point shooting big and doing all that kind of stuff too. So I think you got to give him props, even though he, unfortunately kind of ended the career of my boy TJ Ford with that stinger injury.
That's how long he's been around.
That is how long he's been in the league. He has been in the league. He gave TJ Ford a stinger, dropping him to the floor. I think it was unintentional. He was like really apologetic about it, so I don't really have too much ill will towards him. But in any case, unless you have anything to say, Steve, that is kind of where we're going to wrap up this podcast. Gosh, we've gone on pretty long. You guys got an extra half hour out of us, but we're happy to oblige. And as I mentioned, please check out our number 1, TikTok, number 2, Instagram. There's a Twitter. I'm going to put the link tree in the description. And also, we have started a Patreon page for all of you who want to get more access to Raptors Report. If you like what we're doing, if you appreciate what we're doing, please go over there and become a member. We've got some merch, if you can believe it. There is a t-shirt that you can get with a nice big Raptors Report logo on it. So if you want to, you can help us out that way. In any case, Steve, you can reach us both on social media at Raptors Shack for Steve and at Raptors Report, at Raps Report for myself, Julian. And as always, thank you guys for tuning in to Raptors Report, your source for in-depth Raptors content.